Hey guys, it's VEDA Day 4, April 4th, or as it is better known to Tumblr, Robert Downey Jr.'s birthday. And today I'm going to talk to you about tabletop games. Now, when I say tabletop games, you're probably thinking one of two things. You're either thinking things like Warhammer 40,000, where you've got bajillions of models, dice coming out of your ears, it looks really complicated. Or you're probably thinking of Scrabble, Ludo, Monopoly, things like that. If you're a nerd, you're probably taking things down a third path, which is thinking of Dungeons and Dragons, and none of those are really what I mean. What I mean is sort of the whole Scrabble, Monopoly, Ludo route, but I mean a little bit more complex than rolling a dice to see if you get to the end first. I find that a more complex game often brings you closer together as a group of friends, and it's one of my favourite things to do is just get a group of friends together and play some games. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a crash course in the two games that I use to introduce my friends to the more obscure games, and that is Sopio, a game invented by a YouTuber, Alex Day, which is a card game, and Settlers of Catan, which is not quite a board game, but it's built with a board. It's a very simple game to understand, but a very complicated game to try and win. And it's generally the one that I can introduce my friends to weirder board games with, and then they become more open to trying different things. So first I wanted to talk to you about Sopio. Sopio is a card game invented by YouTuber Alex Day and his cousin Danny. If you do not know who Alex Day is, click on the Enterprise and it will take you to his channel. Sopio is a really simple game. Each turn, you draw until you've got 5 cards in your hand, and then you play a card either on yourself or on an opponent, and the goal is to get to 1,000 points first. Now there are technically 3 types of cards on Sopio. I like to classify it as 4, just to make things a little simpler. That is positive and negative points cards, effects cards, and effect points cards. Positive and negative cards just give you a positive or negative points bonus. Effects cards will generally move cards around or change what cards are in your points pile, move things to your hand, allow you to draw more cards, stuff like that. And then effects points cards generally aren't as powerful as effect cards, but also give you points. Generally, an effect card won't stick around, whereas an effect point card will. So sometimes you'll have sustained effects that also accompany the points in your points pile. The other cool thing about Sopio is that every single deck and most of the boosters come with a blank card or two. And those allow you to make your own cards to chuck into the deck. Just make sure they're not too overpowered. There are currently 4 decks and 7 boosters of Sopio available. I own every one, as you can see here. And there's also these rather nice deck boxes that have got Sopio written on them in various ways and some of the cards printed on the side. Each deck has a different coloured border, as you saw around the side, and then the boosters all have a generic black border. You can actually get the entire set online right now for £42. You get the Sopio wristband free, which is this. I mean, it's a little band that goes on your wrist. It's a wristband. It's clever, but it fades really quickly, or at least mine has, which is kind of disappointing. And then you can get the deck boxes for £2.50 a piece. And if you go to sopiocards.com, you can get it all on there. It's a really fun game, really simple, easy to pick up. Anybody will play it. It's a lot of fun, especially when you start adding 2 decks together. I've not braved doing more than 2 decks because it means the game takes quite a while to play. Although you can make the game last longer by setting the points to win at a different level. But I've played with 2,000 points in 2 decks, and that's quite fun, but that game can take up to an hour, whereas usually they take about half hour. But one day I will put all 4 decks together and do like a 5,000 points one, and it'll be crazy. You also need to add more decks if you're going to play with a lot of people. Like, the deck itself will just sustain up to about 5 or 6 people. After that, you'll run out of cards before anyone wins. But if you do, then whoever's got the most points wins. That's actually in the rules. The entire rules for Sopio actually fit on a single card. And this card comes with every single deck, so I have 4 colours of this card. But yeah, like I said, go to sopiocards.com, pick it up, it's really simple, and it's something that might inspire you to try out some more obscure games. There's a lot of really fun games to be found out there if you just look for weirder things. So the second game I wanted to explain to you is the Settlers of Catan. Catan is a board game, quote unquote. You assemble the board each time you want to play. Now there is a standard layout, which is printed here on the back of the rules, that is suitable for beginners. Or you can do what I do, which is just randomly lay the tiles out each game. There are 6 different types of tile, each of which associate with a different type of resource, except for one, which is the desert, which is where the robber lives. And I'll get to the robber later. Basically, the game is about managing those resources in order to build roads, settlements, and upgrade those settlements to cities. The aim is to get 10 victory points first. You get 1 victory point for every settlement you build and 2 victory points for every city you have. There are also other ways to gain victory points. Whoever has the longest continuous road gets 2 victory points, and whoever has the largest army gains victory point. You get knights, which counts towards that largest army by purchasing development cards. Development cards can be one of 3 things. They can either be a knight card, a victory point card, or a usable card. The usable cards either let you build 2 additional roads, take 2 of any resource from the bank, or name a resource and steal all of that resource from everybody else, which late game becomes really annoying. In order to actually get resources, at the start of each turn you will roll the dice, and there are numbered pips that go on each of the hexes. The hexes with the number rolled generate that resource, and if you have a settlement on the edge of that tile, you gain some of that resource. Settlements can't be placed too close together either. You have to have at least one empty corner between each two settlements. Also, if a 7 is rolled, which is actually the most common number on 2 dice, so this is quite evil, anybody who has more than 7 cards has to get rid of half, and the robber is moved. The robber looks like this, and when you roll a 7, you can move him anywhere on the board. The tile you move him to can no longer generate any resources, and if the tile you move it to has a settlement or city, you can steal a resource at random from that settlement or city's owner. Now this all sounds really complicated, but trust me, it's really simple. It takes about an hour to play. The game comes at about £25, and you can pay £15 for an extension that allows you to play with 5 or 6 players, and there are 3 expansions for it, each of which has their own 5 or 6 player extension. That is Seafarers, Cities and Knights, and Traders and Barbarians. I don't own any of them, so I can't actually tell you what they are like to play with, but my only real problem with them is that if you have 2 or more expansions, there are no rules for playing 2 or more at once, so you sort of have to homebrew it, which I'm not particularly keen on, but I'm sure there'll be an official release for something like that eventually. Well, no, that's not all the rules of Catan, that's just the basic. You can play with what I've told you, but the game is really simple. Like I said, pick up a copy, and that'll be it. So that's your crash course in my gateway tabletop games. I hope that you pick them up and give them a try and try other things like them. I actually have an Amazon wish list dedicated to all the different ones that I want to buy. And if you want to see it, just to see the kind of things I'm talking about, I will put a link to that in the description. But that's all for today, guys. I will see you tomorrow for another vlog. So about 7 people.